Uncle E, how are you?
Hey, what's going on?
I heard you say
Hey, the brace crew.
brace face.
Let's go. I'm ready for these things to come off, though.
Same, same. But back on topic,
Yes,
y'all.
man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I heard you say earlier out there when you went up on stage you were a youth pastor.
I am actually a pastor,
Hmm.
of adult, well, and youth. Our church, we're very intentional of all voices, all ages. Every voice matters. But yeah, I've been in ministry for a long time. There's a young crowd here, so I don't want to say how many years because I feel like an old man. But that's why I go by the name Uncle E,
Hmm.
because I just want to be a member of the family, especially for this younger generation.
You definitely give like the cool uncle vibes. I
I
will
like,
say
thank you, thank you. See, kids, if my kids are watching, I told you I was cool. All right.
that. So he's not just a pastor; he's also a spoken word artist.
Yeah, it's called. I did something. My first album was called Monoloetry. It's like the blend of monologue and poetry. So it's a
Okay.
little bit of theatric, but it's the wordplay and everything in between.
He also invents new words, guys.
Hey, yeah. God's creative, like a creator. We can be creators, right?
You did a very powerful piece tonight, and it really touched me because I've been looking at Christ through the eyes of humanity as well, seeing him more
Mm,
in the humanistic side. Because I think we tend to forget that, like we see him just as God, but it's just like he came here to show us
yeah,
the human experience
yeah,
and how we're supposed to live it out.
yeah.
So when you talked about him in the garden and how he cried out to his father, it was like,
Mm,
I don't want to do this, but your will, not mine,
yeah,
and knowing what he was called to do, knowing what his purpose was here on earth, and just kind of knowing like the things that we experience as humans, how we struggle um, with not even knowing what we're going to experience. And
mm-hmm,
even still, we get offended, we get angry, we become
mm-hmm,
bitter, resentful, we harden our hearts. But Jesus, he was like, I don't even want to do this, but I'm going to do it for you and for my Father,
yeah.
because that's how much he loves you. So I just wanted to ask you what inspired that piece tonight.
I was really, man, one I guess week leading up to Easter, I was just reading Matthew 26, and being a creative, I go into the scriptures and I just look at it from an imaginary lens of like I'm actually in the garden, and like I guess so many times, and it's crazy. I've been walking with the Lord for a long time, and I've known Jesus as my Savior. But as you just pointed out, I guess we kind of treat it like Jesus is a robot. Okay, I'll go die for the people. But nah, being in this human body, having this human soul, there's things that we don't want to do. It was tough. And when I visualize him making that decision, it makes me draw closer to him. You know
Absolutely.
what I'm saying? He's not far out of reach. He's actually closer than we imagine. I just wish we would portray that side of him more in churches,
Yes.
because sometimes we treat him. There's a line that say, "No, I'm not talking about Jesus, the Anointed One, and His anointing appointed to save mankind as the only seed of the heavenly bloodline." That's him being 100% God,
Yeah, yeah.
and we know that.
Right.
But that seems so far and untouchable. But this man in the garden and him crying out, if there's any other way,
Yeah.
that was real for me. And the peace, I just breathed the peace out of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even with you saying that, I'm noticing a pattern with the performance tonight. Everyone's in a vulnerable space.
Yeah.
And you sharing that really showed Jesus' vulnerable side. So I
Yeah.
think that was so powerful for you to share tonight.
I got a secret confession. I knew it was going to be predominantly young adults here.
Mhm.
I love hanging around young adults. Me and my wife, we left being campus pastors at a mega church so that we can birth the church for my kids who are ages 15 through 25. There is something about young adults that if you're not tampered with or tainted with or infected by I don't want to bash the church, I don't want to say this, but sometimes there's a fakeness. Young adults aren't going to bring that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think the voice of young adults needs to be louder to continue to speak that authenticity, because we need to hear about real relationships with God.
Absolutely,
Real
absolutely.
relationships, yeah.
And I like how you pointed that out because at my church, I'm one of the youth leaders. And something I noticed with the youth that draws me to them is they just want the realness.
Yeah.
They're raw.
Yeah.
They want a safe space to be raw. Like
Yeah.
I don't want all the theatrics. I don't want the performance. This is what I'm dealing dealing with,
Yeah.
and I need to know that you understand that. So
Yeah.
I think that's really, really important, and I
Yeah.
love what you're doing
Yeah.
because that generation that's the generation we need
Right
to
now.
hear the message, to
Absolutely.
know the word.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So what message are you hoping people take from your performance?
I just hope it takes people to a sober place. We're called to be disciples. I've never said this next statement live, so y'all might want to edit it. I no longer publicly acknowledge myself to be Christian. I don't deny that people will put me in that category, but Jesus never used the word Christian. Jesus never came to start a religion. He came to create disciples. I tell people I'm a follower of Christ.
I love that.
It's a complete, especially in this country we live in, a lot of people wearing the name Christian, but they're making Jesus look like a hot mess.
Woo, talk
You
about it.
understand what I'm
Talk
saying?
about it.
So hopefully through this piece and like other pieces, I talk about a whole bunch of things from mental health, domestic violence, faith, sexual integrity. I just want people to not just look at things as status quo or what society tells them, but look at it from the lens of Christ and what we learn from the Gospels and how we should conduct our lives.
Oh, that's beautiful. I
Yeah,
love it. I was just actually was on Threads earlier, and I saw someone talking about that, how Christ never, considered himself a Christian, and that kind of just came into be, and so I love that, being able to call ourselves followers of Christ.
yeah,
We're
disciples.
yeah, that's all.
Yeah,
We're fishermen. We're fishers of men.
right. The challenge with it though is that we got to carry our cross,
Absolutely,
and that's the part
daily.
that's not
Yeah,
attractive. That doesn't
yeah,
bring a good offering in.
yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But that's what Jesus told us to do.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. How has your relationship with Christ shaped your creativity?
Um, it's been really helpful for me that over the COVID-19 happened for everybody, right? Probably before COVID-19, I was all preacher and I had put all of my poetic and creative writing to the side because I just didn't have time for it. God has showed me how to be the authentic me. Even when I preach, it's a combination of the creative and the ministry portion. This book right here is a communication book, and it comes from a pastoral lens of teaching people how to communicate. But there's a creative aspect where I walk through a couple named Sean and Liz in different scenarios they go through and say, okay, stop right there. You see what they did there? So it's just, I feel like right now, I feel like I'm the most authentic that I've been. And this crazy part, I'm 50 years old. It took me maybe 5 years, the past 5 years, to get to this place. I'm telling whoever's young, don't wait. Don't let people put you in a box. Don't let people shut your mouth. Don't suppress yourself. Tap into how God authentically, wonderfully, and fearfully made you right now and discover that. There was another brother that rapped, and his disclaimer, he was like, this is a song, but it might sound weird to y'all, but I'm just going to sing it anyway. And I pulled him aside and I said, listen, don't give any apologetics. Whoever this is going to attract, because it's for a generation, it's for somebody,
Yeah,
just give it.
yeah,
You don't have to apologize for it. So, unapologetic.
absolutely. That's good.
Yeah.
So it seems like you've been serving the Lord for a long
100
time now.
years.
So I want to know, when did you realize your gift was meant to serve God?
When I realized my gift was meant to serve God. I mean, I ain't gonna front. I ain't got a testimony like, yeah, I was signed with Def Jam and nah. I mean, I grew up in the church. I was a hypocrite in high school. I was in a choir. I remember the director of the choir said, no matter what you do, you'll never be able to get away from church. It's always been a part of my life. So I've never ran from it. But again, I was churchy. Some of the pieces I didn't share because this book is PG-13 and the church acts like it's not ready for it. So I think I finally come to this point of being organic with what I deliver. And if some people are offended, then they weren't either they'll pray about it later or they just weren't to hear it, but it will attract people that I'm supposed to reach. Jesus offended a lot of people unapologetically, and he loved them,
Yeah.
but he didn't suppress who he was.
Absolutely.
So that's how me uncovering this art has really helped me at this point in my life.
Okay, and I know you're going to share your books with us and let us know where we can find them. But something you also mentioned about is that you're trying to push for the church to talk about sex more.
Absolutely.
And I completely agree with that because I think the reason that the conversations that the church tries to shy away from are the things that we see people struggle with the most
Yeah.
in society.
Right.
So what is behind that, the idea of that?
Well, right now we're looking at Epstein files and all types of demonic stuff that's happening behind lust, and then we're hearing congressmen they're coming out, and there's a whole bunch of stuff God is exposing. I'm grateful that God exposed me to my wife 8 years into our marriage. I had emotional affairs, and I thought because they were spiritual or they were emotional, and at least I wasn't physically cheating, I was off the hook. But emotional is worse than, in my opinion, because unfortunately, you can physically be involved with anybody and not have any strings attached, but emotionally, there's soul ties connected. So when that happened, and my wife and I went through the necessary healing, first I had to go through the healing. I said, because we're not having the conversation, I got to write a book about it. My wife first said, no, you ain't telling our business. But we kept coaching other couples. And she was like, babe, you got to write it. So she actually does a foreword for the book. It's full of a combination of testimony. I take my journey from things that I was exposed to at 8, at 13, me being abandoned by my mother was something I suppressed, and I expressed that from a sexual lens. And I, in fact, so all that's in there, but there's a biblical responsibility to teach on why God created sex.
Right.
And I have a mission. I want to normalize the conversations in the church and help empower parents to learn and to have the conversation. You know, one crazy thing I did? When every one of my kids turned 14, I made a commitment to sit down with them and apologize for what I did to their mom. Because I not only sinned against my wife, I sinned against our spiritual legacy. And I opened a breach that I needed to. You ever seen Stranger Things? I'm sorry, I got kids. So when Elle opened the wormhole, right? She got to close that joint, or else people are just comfortable with sins and they think they got away with it or it didn't hurt them that bad. But now you're wondering why your son or daughter is now considering certain things on a worse level because it comes back worse. So that's what this book is about: sexual healing.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to tap into that book.
Yeah.
But please share with the people where we can find you and where we can purchase your pieces.
Absolutely. I got kicked off of social media. I got kicked off of IG and Facebook. I've appealed it. I've only talked to bots. I've never talked to a human person. So I don't need them Bamas anymore. If they don't want me, I don't want them. I'm on TikTok at the Kellum Family on TikTok. We have podcasts on YouTube at the Kellum Family. That's KELLUM Family, the Kellum Family. My older daughters and I have a podcast called A Dad and His Daughters, because a lot of dads don't know how to have conversations with their daughters. My son and I have one called A Father and His Son, similar thing. And of course, my wife and I have one called Marriage Matters. So you can check out all those podcasts and some of my spoken word art at thekellamfamily.com. And yeah.
Share your books with us.
Okay. And so I told you about sexual healing. The dope part about soul work, this is a collection of 24 pieces. And I talked about the different themes that we cover. And the really cool part is that there's a QR code, and you can scan the QR code and you can read and listen at the same time. But look, some of y'all, I know y'all don't read. Let's be real. We need to read more. But if you don't, you could also check out Soul Work on all digital platforms. And this is We Really Need to Talk. Um, I think we suffer from an intimacy deficiency. We're afraid to be intimate with each other. And if we don't learn how to communicate, it's going to continue to create situations where you're strangers with the people that matter with the most. And so this addresses certain tools as far as how to communicate better from an offensive and defensive standpoint.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you. You're a great interviewer.